Hey all, this is 012 Boku, and
Never prepared jackass Jarek here.
yes, Jarek had to go run and get his notes, but we are here and we are coming at you with another review of, again, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. We are back to this again after a bit of Legion of Superheroes, continuing the anime. We've also not forgotten the anime for you guys, just like with how movies will be a little bit more sparse again, but we will keep doing the movie reviews as well. But we are on probably what most people would call the clip show, but I will call it by its title. It is episode 27. Had it written on here, but I just looked at it, so I don't need to see it. But it is called Interlude Party. Now, I'll just basically state it. We're not going to talk about a lot this episode because all it is clips about what the Elric brothers did from start to finish to where they're at now and going through what they learned, what their hardships were, and all that stuff. So what made this episode interesting, because I know some people say, oh, well, this is why you skip the clip shows. And I'm like, not always, because the hook on
Yep.
this was Hohenheim.
Yeah, this is kind of like filler, but with a purpose.
Yes, and Hohenheim, Elric, basically is sitting there alone on a log, but basically he's surrounded what looks like by a bunch of people dancing around a fire. And I won't lie to you, you think this is real, but it's weird right off the bat because you get a very young looking Panako coming up offering him a very funny dog and crossbones looking Scotch whiskey. And,
Yeah, as I remember, the bottle was called Stray Dog, which
oh
is
yeah, you
kind of
noticed
funny
right off.
because as he noticed, this thing there, the people dancing around the fire is very reminiscent of, like, say, a Celtic or Gaelic harvest festival. And her drinking a bottle of scotch called Stray Dog, I almost feel as like them giving a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to the Hound of Duscath, the Child of Light, the great Cuchulainn. And if you know who he is, bro fucking fist, he's the best lancer ever.
Yep, and as you see, like they're just sort of together, and I mean, it's a weird thing because Hohenheim's staring off into space, but you have things like uh Panako Rockbell saying come on, join the party, do all these things, and he sort of doesn't want to, but then it's like it becomes these questions of she's like are you doing this for your sons? Are you worried about them? And he's like, there's nothing more I could teach them that they can't already know that they've already done for themselves. And, it's just like, it becomes that where he's reflecting upon that and he's thinking about his son. But then all of a sudden, you know, as he's thinking about his sons, you have while Pinocchio and him are talking, and you have this little girl wanting to dance with him, and he refuses. Father, who looks like Hohenheim Elric. If you guys have seen the show, you know. If not, you'll find out why Father looks like him and why he's basically mocking Hohenheim the way he is. But he says basically, I don't know what you're doing. Humans are weak. You think you're going to make a difference? And as you can see, Panako tries to get more serious and says, Hohenheim, why didn't you tell anybody? And Hohenheim, gives the fearful but somewhat, understandable answer, but still a fearful answer. No one would ever listen. No one would understand. So what's the point?
Well, and also what's interesting is when they were dancing, you saw like the shadows of two of the people like blending into each other into almost like a chimera beast, which I find highly appropriate because this is really, kind of like this scene with like Hohenheim talking to himself. It's like, humans are such weak and cowardly creatures. Of course, they're going to seek comfort in some power to, in like, seeking comfort in fire and the light it provides to keep the darkness at bay. What else could they do? They're so willing to make the worst choices. But hey, they make great resources.
Yep. And then not only that, didn't you say what those two people formed? Because you're the one who brought it up,
Oh
which I
yeah,
didn't see. Didn't you say it looked like a yin yang jerk?
yeah. Let me. Yeah, because like as him and basically himself are having this little discussion, you're seeing like these images play out of like
One sec, Jerk Hart, do you need to go out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me get him.
Yeah, because he's. Go ahead. Like I said, I can.
Yeah, you see like all these different images correlating to like alchemy, various depictions of it, aspects, various different interpretations. And there's like one scene that shows like, if you're all familiar with the Da Vinci Petruvian male, the man inside of like, I think it's a pentagram, which he used as a diagram. Like I think it's a pentagram inside of a circle with like a man doing like this pose. It's called, I believe, the Petruvian form, and it was used as the basis for his idea for the Petruvian architecture, which was a huge mathematical achievement at the time. Nobody could crack that shit. And what's interesting is I told them, like when they're showing this, you see like one of a man and one of a woman. They merge into each other and they form like a yin yang symbol, which if you're familiar with the yin yang, yin is, I believe, the positive feminine aspect. Yang is the destructive male aspect. And it's oftentimes depicted, also called like two fish trying to devour each other's tail, opposing one another but dependent on each other's existence. Again, if you go into like Buddhism, Shinto, Taoism, blah blah blah. But it's kind of interesting because again, it's playing with like everything we've learned in the show. If you want the ultimate power of the Philosopher's Stone, you're gonna have to offer something of equivalent exchange, and only something of mass genocide of human souls is really gonna pull that off.
Yep, because that's the only thing. That's the only thing that you can do to, bring. I mean, I know they already have the episode of bringing it back to life, but why I like how Jared brings that up is like, you can somewhat do it, maybe not in the way you want to, but again,
And I also
the price is always way too high.
And I also asked Boku this because I'll admit my Italian history is a little scuffy, but I was like, wasn't Da Vinci part of like several different secret societies?
Yeah.
And yeah, he was. I mean, like the Red Roses, the Illuminati. There's also like rumors that he was, basically giving lots and lots of quote unquote consultation to world leaders at the time. I mean, serious. And, again, there were always the rumors that him, Nostradamus, and several others were basically being given forbidden knowledge by the devil. Because, I mean, these guys were too far ahead of their time. They were too insightful. And also, there was also another weird thing that I noticed in the episode. It's kind of been happening the whole time, but I just barely made the correlation to this episode. And that was people always losing their left hands or arms. Which, again, since this is going off of a lot of Judeo-Christian iconography, the very first person who was ever confirmed to be left-handed is the devil. And fun fact for all you history experts, there are only about 3 or 4 American presidents who are not left-handed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also, apparently, there's a bit of a weird genetic link between being left-handed and having stupidly high levels of creativity and insight, but... story for another time.
Yeah, and as it continues after that huge tidbit from Jarek there, like he even says because I guess Panako keeps asking him, you should have told somebody, someone would have listened, we would have listened, or even your closest friends would have, and he says that I have written down in the notes, that he's like, well, humans can't defend themselves, they can't be like the artificially created homunculi, or they can't be like any of our magic or what we can do, so they'll just wither and die. And then, Panako's like, well, that's no reason for us to give up. We can't give up. We have to keep on fighting. And, she's trying to get through to him. All the meanwhile, while this is going on, as the clips are going back and forth, you have 2 people who are dancing. I think it's the 2 people that became the yin yang explode, splatter blood on the kids, and that's sort of like the last time that we see people. Also, I forgot to mention the fire's getting huge and creating this fire of chaos as it was getting bigger and burning out of control. And, as this is going on, Panako is doing whatever she can to get into Hohenheim. Hohenheim is like having this weird, fearful moment, and then all of a sudden, the flames die down. Father comes out of the flames. Oh wait, actually, Hohenheim disappears. The flames die down. Father comes out of where the fire was, and, like, he goes up to Panako to where, like, he's telling Hohenheim, you're trying to hold on to anything for a defense. And he basically rips off Panako's face. It was nothing graphic, just sort of like a goopy thing. But rips off Panako's face, and it's Hohenheim underneath, like him trying to hang on to the stuff that Panako told him to see if there's a chance. And Father says, "You've gone too far. After what you've done, do you think you can be forgiven? No one would forgive you." And I'll say it once, I'll say it again. Humans are a resource. If we don't use them as a resource, they'll multiply too much, and then they'll just end up killing themselves in other brutal ways, as they always have. And believe it or not, as this ends, he sort of sits there reflecting on that, like scared. Actually, no, I forgot. After Father says that, he feels souls in dead people, possibly something he did coming out of his hands. Again, if you've seen the show, you know, but if you haven't, just take that in. He like sees these souls coming out of his hand and in his face, and he's just like grabbing onto himself like that.
Yeah, if I remember, didn't he say like it's like, would they listen to you? What have you even looked in a mirror and you start seeing like all the souls of the people who've probably been killed by his experiments? Just kind of reminiscent of like what happened when Envy turned into his dragon form. We saw the souls of the people he consumed.
Yep, and that's a very good point there, Jarek. Nicely pointed out. And that very well could have been it. But after that, like, Father disappears, the souls aren't there anymore, and he's sort of like huffing and puffing. But then all of a sudden, Trisha Alric comes out of nowhere and she says, people can change, but you know what? We can change because we are weak. We can get stronger, do better. We can stand up for ourselves, do what we're meant to do, and always have a chance. And this is like her, as I'm going to say, maybe a young teen or a little girl. Me and Jarek thought she was that little girl in the beginning trying to talk to him, but no, it was a different kid. We found out from the credits. But, obviously, it must have been around the time he first met Trisha Alric, because she was like a young teen or something like that. But then all of a sudden, she says, well, if that's not enough, and then we see Trisha Alric morph into her adult form as we knew her before she died, and she's like, remember me, and remember the people of Resemble, so to where she's standing there, the young Panako's there, everyone in the town seems to be there, and then you have the little boys of Edward and Alphonse being there, and it's playing the song of Let It All Out in a nice crescendo and feel-good moment, and then when that sort of ends, he wakes up, he's a little shocked, and he's just seeing, where he was. It's daylight, nothing happened. So in many ways it was a dream, but as he's getting up to walk away, make of this as you will, whether he took it from Panako's house before, or whether it materialized from his thoughts, he looks back and he sees the Scotch whiskey bottle, and he's like, thank you again, old friend, and he walks away, and that pretty much was this episode. I mean, we could have talked about it a little more, but it's already clips we've seen of everything that's happened. So again, this whole episode pretty much focused on Hohenheim, and that's why I liked it. Like, all the clips we were seeing were all of his positive and negative thoughts interplaying out together.
I told Boku, like, for me, this was kind of like him having his little purgatory moment, being confronted by his sins and demons, and yet, like the Bible says, even in the lowest depths of hell, there can be an angel offering you mercy and compassion. And, of course, who's the angel? Of course, it's Trisha. And also another weird thing, like, I noticed, like, the evil in him, Hohenheim, was like, look at them. They're so scared of everything. They fear the dark so they have to make these fires for comfort. And, it's like, it is true. Humans are innately fearful of fire. But interestingly enough, there is an old saying, and I believe it's actually a Christian one, too. It's like, even all it takes to hold back even the most profound of darkness is even the light of but a single flame. And that's kind of the neat thing about it. It's like, if humans are so pathetic, why is it so determined to snuff out this one tiny, insignificant flame? And that's kind of the thing. It's like, it goes back to what Panako said. It's like, yes, we are weak, but because we are weak, we can become stronger. We can become determined to be better. And it's kind of funny because, Hohenheim, deep inside of his mind, believes he's completely and utterly irredeemable, and kind of debatable if you want to believe that or not, but the people of that town, Panako, Trisha, they all love him, they all believe in him, even in death they all probably still believe in him, and deep down, I have to believe even the Elric brothers, want to save him, and I think this is kind of something inside of him just being like, "Get in there, you're not done yet."
Yep. And that's a good way to put it. But again, it harkens back to both the Japanese and English sayings that Panako says to him when he visits the town. Come back and break bread with us, Hohenheim. Or, hey, Hohenheim, don't be a stranger. So, showing how, regardless of what he's done, they're willing to do that. I mean, even though they probably don't know the whole scope of it, that's how much he meant to this place, to these people. And that's what's great about it. And pretty much the cast was very short. Again, there was a bigger cast, but again, clips. So, this is basically the cast. I'll run it down really quickly because there's only 4 people. Hohenheim, John Swayze, Unshiyoshi Izuka, Trisha Elric, Lydia McKay, Yoshino Takamori, Panaka Rockbell, Shelly Calene-Black, Mami Koyama, Father Kent Williams, Unsho Ishizuka, Kent Williams in English, and also the guy who does Hohenheim in Japanese as well, since they were, I think in Japanese they're done by 2 different people, but in this one, it's because they were both the same age at the time, so I think they just played off that, basically not a big cast. Everybody was great in this one. I loved everyone, but if you want the characters that stood out to me, Hohenheim, John Swayze, Unshiyoshi Izuka, and Father Kent Williams, Unsho Ishizuka again. Because I don't know why their performances really just stood out to me. It's just that whole, the man who's good but has regrets and the evil just playing off it. I mean, Shelly Calene-Black, Lydia McKay, Yoshino Takamori, and Mami Koyama did great work too, but it's just like something about those 2 and the way they played off just really made it great. And I'm like, I just love that whole good versus evil mentality, so that's why. Jarek, how about you?
Oh, I'm gonna have to go with Father and Trisha Elric, because Trisha did who did her voice again in English?
Lydia McKay.
She did an amazing mother voice. I mean, it had the right amount of soft, gentle, and yet supportive push that you would expect from an old school mom. And I used to, I have a pretty good real life Hispanic family. I mean, old school family. So I kind of know what that sounds like. And man, did she pull that off. I mean, you can tell that lady's been into more than a few relationships. Just saying. And as for her father, I mean, considering he spent most of this episode sounding like a man who is essentially psychologically broken by the stuff he's done, he did that spot on.
Yeah.
And then finally, when he comes to his goddamn senses and starts listening to Winry Rockbell again, it's like, honestly...
Panako.
Yeah, Panako Rockbell. It's like, honestly, if you've ever dealt with, like, old people who have had really fucked up family relationships, this episode is going to bring you to tears, because you can tell this is a man who knows what that sounds like, and he probably never wants to hear it again.
Yeah, but again, that's what made it all the bittersweet, which is why I think this clip show is important, because you see the focuses of Hohenheim, which we haven't seen before. We only got him in those 1 or 2 episodes. This one, we see him almost not fleshed out completely, because there will be a whole prequel episode that we've not gotten to yet, so we will see the whole beginning of this thing with him and Father. But this was a good starter in that place and getting what his thoughts are. Final thoughts? Again, a great clip show. The way they interacted with the clips and Hohenheim's whole battle inside himself were great. The acting in both Japanese and English were great. I really do like that line. Oh, don't worry about him. He's just an old man with a bad hip. That was a great English line from Shelly Calene-Black.
Or the other one where it's like, if this old codger tried to dance with you, he'd probably break a hip.
Oh, that's what she said. This old codger tried to dance with you, he'd probably break a hip. So yeah, that's what she said. But yeah, that was a good one. It's again not a huge one of stuff that happened, but it was a great inner turmoil moment in the show, and that's what I have to say. Jarek, thoughts?
Yeah, world building. What's that? I mean, who does that anymore? I fucking kid.
But either way, what do you guys think? Would you like Interlude Party again? Have you seen the show? As I always say, just leave comments down below, and hopefully we'll try to get
Oh,
back
and,
to you on them if you do. Oh, what's up
Hey,
there?
Boku, I even though I know it was a bottle of scotch, I have to make this joke. Panako, where's the rum? Where's the rum, dear? Where's the rum, Panako?
Why is the rum, Panako, always gone? Yes, indeed. But yeah, why is the rum always gone? And all these questions and more you can try to answer down below. But until then, this is 012 Boku.
And Jackass Jarek.
And we will see you guys again in the next review. So, deuces.
Deuces.
And sorry, Larry Zabisco, not trying to copy you. My bad.